Author is funded by the Pacific Northwest Writers Association, supporting writers from pen to publication since 1955. To learn more about the PNWA and their yearly conference, please go to pnwa.org. Hi, this is Bill Kenower of Author Magazine, and we're here at Third Place Books in Lake Forest Park with Jeyn Roberts, author of Dark Inside. Jeyn, welcome to Author.
Hi.
So Jeyn, I know that you've been wanting to write at least since you were in high school. I'm going to guess it goes back even further than that, though.
Oh, yeah.
Can I guess? Do you mind?
No, go.
And I'm going to say 8.
A little higher.
9?
A little
10?
higher.
Oh, okay. All right, I didn't guess.
I'm going to say 11, because that is the first time I can consciously remember that I started writing a novel.
You started writing a novel. Did you go from 0 to 60? So you just started at novel? You didn't start with like writing the story about the horse and the butterfly or something?
There were a couple of those going on.
When was that?
Oh, that probably from the moment I could start writing.
And so you have almost no memory probably of even becoming interested in writing in a way, in terms of just like, oh, that's something I like.
I loved reading.
Oh.
And I've always had a very, very vivid imagination. So
How did it play out for you when you were a younger person, your vivid imagination?
I hated to go to bed. I hated it. And my parents, if they used to get babysitters, apparently I was a nightmare because I would go to bed, but I wouldn't sleep. So I would sit in my bed and make up stories. And I still remember doing that. I had all these little stories I would play out in my bed.
Were you a character in that?
Always.
The heroine?
Oh, always.
Okay. And then at some point you decided to write some of them down?
Yes, pretty much.
What did you think of them when you started? What did you think when you were writing it down? What did you think about that?
There was a certain kind of huge excitement because, in a way you're playing God. You can take a character and you can make them as cool as you want to or as weird, and you can put them into whatever sorts of situations you want. And of course, when you're doing it yourself, it's always situations that you find appealing. I've always been into the action, the fantasy, and of course that played huge in my mind.
When were you willing to show it to anybody?
I don't really think I took a creative writing class when I was 13 at my high school, and that was my first experience with having other people read my work.
How'd you like that?
I didn't quite know how to handle criticism at that time, so not very well. I remember my teacher going, just because they're telling you something's wrong doesn't mean it's bad, and I couldn't grasp that concept, so I think my creative writing teacher at that time probably was going, oh.
Right. Well, that's very hard for a lot of writers. Mm-hmm. And I think it's hard for writers straight up through their adulthood, obviously. And I think that particular take that you're describing is a proclivity that some people have. And so I'm wondering because as a professional writer, you've got to cope with that, obviously. Do you know when you began to kind of, and not harden up, but sort of grow up around that idea of taking criticism and working with an editor? And
it probably started in university, because I took creative writing in university, and that was when I started realizing, I do make mistakes. And it's funny because I'm really excellent at accepting criticism now, because I fully understand that I make mistakes. And I've been very lucky to work with 2 editors, one in the UK and one in America, who are just fantastic. And they point out things, and I actually find I get angry about it, because I'm like, oh, why didn't I think of that? Or how come I didn't notice that? And so I think that in terms, I've really grown that way, and I'm very accepting now.
You told me earlier, before we started filming this, that you used to be visited by authors when you were in school, and that meant a lot to you. Why is that?
Because it was seeing, like, they're almost, you want to put them on a pedestal, because in my 13-year-old mind, they were the people I wanted to be.
Right.
And of course, there's
Had you read any of them? Were they actually authors whose work
I had read their work? Yes.
Oh, that must have been exciting.
There was 2 of them. One of them we had to read in high school, and the other one I had read her book, and I just wanted.
What did you think of that? I never, ever met a writer I had read until in my 40s. Literally, I could never went to readings. I don't know what that would have been like when I was in high school.
It was incredible, and it was. Oh, I was so eager to worship them, and I would stick around afterwards and want to talk to them, and it was just so exciting for me. And, you know, it's an experience that I will always remember for my whole life.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why I love going into the school so much.
So let's say someone watching this has just sold her first YA novel or his first YA novel. What would you advise? What's some of the major do's and don'ts for them as they go and try and have a sort of successful school visit?
Talk as little as possible about yourself. When I go in there, I introduce myself. I will tell them a little bit about the book, and then I instantly open up the floor to questions.
Do they have any?
Oh yeah, it's amazing. Because once the first question is asked, usually you just get a whole huge amount going. And no question is dumb or stupid. And, you know, in England, I had kids ask me, have you ever seen a bear? And, you know,
why?
There's no bears in England.
Oh, and you come from Canada?
Yeah, I come from Canada. I'm from the woods. But it was great. They got really excited.
Because that would be my fear, is that they don't have any questions.
Oh, they have tons.
Oh, good.
And they have really good questions. They stumped me today earlier. They actually asked me a question about the book that I honestly didn't know the answer. And I had to admit it. I go, you know, I don't know.
The ending?
It was about the ending. And I was just like, I don't know what's going to happen. And they asked me, it was a really good psychological question about my bad guys. And I'm like, I don't know. I've never thought of it that way. And, you know, they just opened my mind to a whole new way of thinking about my own work.
It's great.
And I love that. And, you know, and they ask a lot of really good questions about writing. And
like what's a good question they've asked about writing?
They ask, you know, what's the process take? How long did it take you to write your book?
Right.
How long did it take to get published? You know, what kind of money do you make?
Right.
That's
none of your business.
Yeah. well, that's a tough one too, because it's such a variety, and that some authors can make very little money and some can do amazing.
Yeah.
So if I get asked that question, and I did today, and instead of saying what I make, I explain what the average is, and, you know, like how it can work out.
Very diplomatic. Well done.
Well, because you don't want to say, well, you know, I did so and so, and then they're going to automatically assume that every author makes that money, and it's just not true.
Right.
I mean, look at J.K. Rowling compared to me. I mean,
right.
It's amazing. These kids have all thought this through, and, you know, they know. Sometimes I think they know a lot more than I do.
Is talking to the teens your favorite part of being an author, would you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I really like teenagers. I think they're a lot of fun. They're very passionate about everything, and they're so devoted to things they love.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a really wonderful time to be alive. And it's also one of the most frustrating times to be alive.
Yeah.
With all those emotions and hormones. And I don't know, they're really wonderful to be around.
All right, Jen, if you could finish this sentence for me. You ready? If writing has taught me anything, it has taught me what?
Ooh. It's taught me that no idea is too small. And in order to achieve everything, you just have to believe.